conversation, wasn't it? Five, four, three, two, one. Thunderbirds are go. Welcome back. As a slight continuation from before, Fiona wants to say something to you about a publication that she feels would be helpful. So before we say anything else,
the underlying principles. It's accessible language, ideal ordination gifts. So you might get a bit of a delayed one until you've been ordained, and so look out for it. I'll let all presbyteries will be told about it, and the more you buy, the less expensive it is. But it's only about £9.40, or if we order 30, it's only £5.47.
oh, that's good.
Because Marjorie it's self-published, published, and she's not doing it for profit. So, but let's see if we can sell as many of these, because I think this will be really helpful for everybody. Thank you, moderator.
Thank you. She's really being very diplomatic and not saying it's an idiot's guide. There we are. That's the microphones on for this business session. I've removed the moderator's scarf. I'm not divesting. There. It's just me personally. We all have wee foibles and thoughts. And so we begin our session with the sediment and any apologies.
Sheets are in the usual place at the door. Please make sure you sign them, and the apologies have been noted.
The agenda being in our hands for some time now is the agenda acceptable to you. Thank you, then we accept that. The roll of presbytery is going to be laid on the table by the clerk.
This roll of presbytery represents an honest and worker. Just to get everything justified in its proper place, so we actually know who's on the presbytery. You've all had the roll for several, for at least 3 weeks, 4 weeks now, and we've had the corrections. The one you've got in hand is the one that we're working from. If there is an error on it, please let me know at the end of the meeting. We will check the roll of presbytery now at the beginning of every presbytery meeting.
Dates on it, and also enable new elders to sign the formula. The formula is in position still now. I repeat my plea, please, if you're an elder, that is an elder who holds a presbytery commission, which is to say from your congregation or as a balancing elder, make sure that you've signed that. There's also been some confusion among the readers. Some readers say we're not on the readers list. Why aren't we on the readers list? If you are already a presbytery elder, you're not going to be in the readers list, because your commission is held on the basis of the fact that you're an elder, not the fact that you're a reader. Readers are corresponding members. So, having said all that, the role is the one that's in your hands now.
Thank you. It's a good work, and it will help all of us in the future. We're looking at point 4 with standing orders, which again you've had in your hands for some time. Are there any questions or comments you would like to make on the standing? Bill, Emily is going to speak to it.
Moderator, question. Bill Emily, Newport. A question on standing orders, and under section 53, ministers on retirement or demission should transfer their membership to another congregation and should refrain from being involved in the life of their forward congregation unless specifically invited to do so by their successor, courtesy towards incumbent ministers at all times. I wonder, my question, moderator, is could this be applied to ministers who have been in a charge and then move to another charge and then come back into their own church, in their own parish?
Thanks, Bill.
My view is yes, it would. The reason that we've put this in, particularly into standing orders, is that there have been issues with intrusion, which are very difficult. Issues with intrusion, I think, particularly well, I wouldn't pick out a presbytery in particular, but one of our legacy presbytery had particular issues with this. It is a huge sacrifice. I remember a minister who had just retired, a single lady minister, said that the church asked enormous amount when you were asked not only to leave your house, but to leave your friends, to leave your social circle, but you are asked to do that. Yes, it applies in the same way. Any possibility of intrusion, you have to guard against it. And just to be clear about this, it would also, in my view, include coming back into what we might call legacy parishes. In other words, you may have left from, I don't know, if say we look at the fourth view, you may have left from Aberdown, you come back to recite, it's one parish now. Okay, so legacy parishes. It's a difficult pastoral thing, but it does protect us from intrusion. And intrusion difficulties, honestly, are so difficult, and they anything to avoid them. People have to be sensitive to where they're coming back. So my answer to your question is yes, I think it does apply, and perhaps even more strongly than it's worded in the standing orders.
Good, thank you.
Moderator, it's in the matter of moderator 5D. I would counsel strongly against any expectation that moderators be expected to serve for 2 years. It would have given me an extra excuse, probably a watertight excuse, when I was invited to be serving as moderator. If I was expected to serve for 2 years, I would have, as a busy minister in Buntown and Kinghorn, the big partnership, would have said no. And I think there's something to be said for variety. And younger than you and I, moderator, to encourage younger serving ministers to consider what they could bring to a year as moderator. So I'm not suggesting we change the words, but I'm just counselling that there should be no expectation placed on moderator to serve for 2 years.
Thank you very much. I think we've been very careful about how we worded this. We're not asking moderators to do 2 years. We're asking them to allow their name to go forward if they so wish. They are appointed on a yearly basis, not on a 2-yearly basis. It is becoming more and more the practice across the church that moderators do spend 2 years. And you can see the point, especially when we're down to 4 meetings and some inductions and so on, that perhaps, perhaps they're not getting as much exposure as they used to. I don't think anybody should be put off doing the moderator's job because they're fearful that they might be asked to do it for 2 years. The answer to that question, if they don't want to do it for 2 years, is no. I won't do it for 2 years, and of course they might not be asked. So that's the way it is. We're not giving a 2-year role to moderators. It is open for people to be invited to do another year. That's all it is.
Thanks for that clarification, Alec. Gail?
Moderator Gail Lennon. it's my understanding from the wording of that that the moderator would be invited to put their name forward for nomination. So if there was nomination, they would still have to be elected again for that second year.
That's correct. Can't be pooped for too long. Any other questions or comments on that? I'm sure Presbytery support the comments that have been made and the responses that we've had. I believe we're having some audio issues online for those following us online, so I simply apologize to you if you're following us online. We'll do our best to make sure that we can get that clarified for you. And so, having the standing orders adopted, do you approve and adopt them? Thank you so much. So we move to the approval of the minutes of the meetings on the 21st of June, first of all, which was in Wellesley. Again, you've had them in your hands for some time. Can we receive these as an accurate minute? 21st. Yes? The second one was for Andre's induction on the 2nd of September. Do you also receive those? Thank you. As I was writing that out and being aware of standing orders and the role of presbytery, I noticed that 13 ministers and deacons attended, 7 elders were also present, and 4 were associated. And because of the new list, I was able to think 13 out of 31 ministers and 7 elders out of 73 attended on that occasion. I just leave that thought with you. Let's move on then, having accepted those, to the Business Committee report.
Moderator Mary Ann Rennie, Minister at Dunfermline Abbey. I want to thank the Presbytery for your contributions at our last meeting. It formed good discussion for our Business Committee, and it led to the decisions that were taken that are within the minutes about where was the right place to meet. It was a lengthy discussion in the Business Committee, and not one easily came to. And so we hope that that one of the words that one of the group mentioned was, this is time that we grew up. We are no longer legacy presbyteries. We are the Presbytery of Fife. And so we need to make a decision about where we meet that's easy for us all to get to, or as easy as possible. And so here seems to be the easiest place. And that's after a lot of consideration of the variety of places there could be. There will be times when we will be elsewhere. There will be times because of events that we are elsewhere. But here will become our home for regular business. You'll also notice that on this occasion the Fife Presbytery Mission Plan Implementation Group has been given its own separate item on today's agenda. Now that's partly to stop me having to ask your permission if Russell or Gail could speak. But it also indicates the significance of the work and the value of the work that the convener, the Reverend Dr. Russell Barr, and particularly the implementation officer, Gail Lennon, have offered in preparing the annual evaluation, the development review in recent months. This is not a plan that has been drawn up on the back of a packet or an envelope. I know that Russell and Gail have spent hours looking at this, praying over it, and hoping that there is a way forward for us all. And it's about how we do this well together. And so I hope that as we enter that part of the discussion, you will listen and respond to the different queries and questions that are coming, knowing the amount of work and consideration that has been put into that report. We do want to thank both of them for the care and attention to what's not always a welcome and comfortable action placed upon the presbytery. But because I'm conscious that we still have a full agenda, I want to tell you that all of the work of the Business Committee is reported in your printed papers for today, and so I hope you've read them and prepared to take questions. There's not a lot there, but if you have things. So, Moderator, I present the report and move the deliverance.
Thank you so much, Marianne. Do we receive the report, Presbytery? And thanks to you and your committee as well, Marianne. Notes on decisions made under powers for us to pay attention to: the appointment of Mike Goodison, the appointment of Bill Imlay, and the appointment of Reverend Alan Mortar, the induction service of Reverend Andre Grunwald, and the decision to postpone nominations of the moderator of Presbytery until after the September meeting to allow for changes if necessary. Do those meet with your approval? Thank you. Having said that and acknowledged and affirmed the action taken, we move to point 3. Approves that all ordinary meetings of Presbytery will take place at Wellesley Church Centre, except for the meeting which, following the communion in the parish church of the moderator. This year I'm planning that we go to Anstruther, because I've been so involved with St. Columba's. The tradition is to go there. They have a new minister who's still getting his feet under the table, and so I would like to return to the scenes of my crime in Anstruther for that. As a principle, does anyone have any questions or comments they wish to make on this? Andrew, thank you.
Thank you, Moderator. Andrew Gilmer, Largo. My question is actually regarding Presbytery elders. I maybe should have raised it when you were talking about the role, but I think maybe when we're talking dates and places for Presbytery meetings. My church, Largo, along with, is the same as is happening in so many churches. We are forming a union with Ely and St. Monans, so 3 churches to one parish. Now, at the moment, we have 3 churches, 3 Presbytery elders. What is uncertain, and I haven't found this mentioned anywhere, in the new arrangements where we will be 1 parish, 1 minister, will we have 3 Presbytery elders, or will it be 1? Now, what are the arrangements going forward for the number of Presbytery elders working at Presbytery?
It's a good, we prefer clarity, Andrew, so thank you for asking. Thank you. Alan's going to bring us his wisdom.
Alan Kimmett, Deputy Clerk. I'm standing up only because Alec nodded in my direction. Andrew, my understanding is that by right, each Kirk session gets 1 representative elder, and that's in team ministry situations, there's an expectation that there will be an equal number of elders to ministers. Presbytery has, under the Church Courts Act, there is a lot of scope for additional elders, and it's entirely appropriate for a Kirk session to nominate as many additional elders as they feel is right. They don't get appointed by the Kirk session by right, but Fife Presbytery has taken the view that in situations like this, it would be appropriate to have additional elders. So nominate as many as you want, and then Presbytery will do what it does.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alan. So, can we accept point 4 that our ordinary meetings of Presbytery will be located from here? There are some practicalities that we're trying to improve on that, both with sound systems, music accompaniment, not the person that's playing it, but the instrument that they have. So, we're looking to improve things there. Reminding Presbytery of the role of the readership within the life of the church. We should really have a resounding nodding of heads or clapping of feet to say yes. Thank you. Noting the unexpected death of Reverend George Fairley, formerly Crail and Kingsbarns, on the 30th of July this year. Thank you. Approve the introduction service of the Reverend Eileen Miller as Interim Minister of Kirkcaldy Langtoon on Thursday the 23rd of October at 7 p.m. and Presbytery will meet
at 6:45 p.m. Do you? It's at St. Bryce. It will take place at St. Bryce. I'm writing that on my notes because I need to turn up Island, don't I? Point 8. Approves the service of induction for Reverend Michael Okpara to Fife Eden Tay Parish Church on the Thursday, the 30th of October at 7 p.m. when Presbytery again will meet in the Auchtermuchty Worship Centre at 6:45. Do you approve? Thank you so much. Thanks, Mary Ann. Two wonderful services to look forward to. And so we call the convener now to speak to us on the Presbytery Mission Plan Implementation Group. Russell, thank you. Russell, forgive me, but I'll interject. If anybody has any questions that affect St. Isle Church, in these papers, then I'll step down and Jim will take the chair because being the former minister, I don't want to have any conflict of interest.
Moderator, thank you. I'm grateful to the business convener, Mary Ann, for her kind remarks earlier. Much appreciated. As amended with the earlier, the report is as in the print. I've got nothing to add to what's in the print, so I would happily move the report and the deliverance, and Gail and I will be glad to answer as best we can any questions.
I'm sure there will be questions, but as a principal, do you receive the report, Presbytery? Thank you so much. So first of all, noting the appointment of Pamela Scott, DCS, to act as facilitator for Cairney Hill, Lime Kilns, Couros and Torryburn, and Catherine Wilson to act as facilitator for the Cooper cluster. We not only note, we say a huge thank you to them both. Point 3, acknowledge the discernment of steering groups and Kirk sessions in working to bring basis of union to congregational vote. I'd like to perhaps mention Graham Beebe here because Graham has followed this through valiantly. He's assisted at every turn and he's put himself forward to remain. Sorry. Okay. Okay, that would have been for point 4, but I wanted to bring it in before we actually brought it because we've just mentioned the work that's gone on by people to make these things happen. So please, come with your question now. So it's a comment. Here we are.
Moderator, thank you. Maureen Jack, Cameron and St Andrews, St Leonards. I'm speaking in relation to the proposed union of St Mark's Parish Church and our church, Cameron and St Leonards. I've been lucky to be one of the union steering group representing Cameron and St Leonards, and it's been a wonderfully positive experience. There's been a real spirit of cooperation, trust and growing friendship among our two groups, and our shared worship, which has been quite frequent over the summer, has been a time of fellowship for all of us in both churches, which I think has been generally appreciated. And the very positive vote for union and for Graham to continue as Minister of the United Charge, I think is a signal of the way things are viewed. That was all I was going to say. But since then, we've been given to understand that the locum at St Mark's has resigned. And our concern is for our Minister, Graham Beebe. And I know that our friends at St Mark's share that concern. Fiona said earlier that the church needs to be a safe place for all. And part of being safe is that not more than can be given is asked for. So we were delighted to have Gail speak to some of us and say that she will be meeting Graham and discussing what positive and practical things Presbytery can do to support him in view of the great increase in his workload. We welcome that, and we look forward to hearing what Presbytery is actually able to offer in practice. Thank you.
Thank you. That embodies everything that we've already said this morning, both the positivity in your approach and our desire to support wherever we can. So this was under point A. Are there any other questions or comments to be made on that? Thank you. We move on.
Ken Fraser, Presbytery elder from St Mark's, St Andrews. We of course entirely agree with everything that Maureen has just said. We're very pleased that this long negotiation for the union has been unanimously approved by both Kirk sessions and a very substantial majority of the congregational vote. And we know that there's a lot of work left to do before the union actually takes place, and we will be doing everything we can in that respect and hope to make a great success of it.
Well done. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm sure that's good music to the principal clerks here as well. We move on then to B, which is Carnock and Oakley Church, Salin and Blairengorn Parish Church, and Tullyallen and Kincardine Parish. Okay, thank you. So back to Cameron, and I haven't asked you to approve it. Do you approve? Thanks, Gail. So Carnock and Oakley Church, Salin and Blairengorn Parish Church, and Tullyallen and Kincardine Parish Church to unite on the 1st of January 2026 to become West Fife Trinity Church of Scotland. Are there any questions or comments on that? Do you accept then that this will happen? Thank you. C, Carnby Church, Kilrenny Parish Church, Kingsbarns Parish Church. This is like one of these long readings you give people to read in church on Sunday. And Largo Ward Parish Church to unite on the 1st of January 2026 to become East Fife Rural Parish Church of Scotland, Carnby, Kilrenny, Kingsbarns, Largo Ward. Are there any questions or comments on this one? Thank you.
Can I just stand here and lift my voice?
You've got, people won't see if we're following from home, you see.
I'll be very brief. Thanks to Reverend Alec Shuttlesworth. When he came, he totally changed the whole way that we were moving. And Russell and Gail for the thoroughness and breath of fresh air. What was frustrating was the change of personalities, conveners changing. We had to begin again and again.
Yeah.
And that was very frustrating over a 4-year project. But my thanks particularly to 3 of you. So many, many thanks for that. Thank you.
I'm grateful that you said thank you to them, and so are Presbytery. We join you in your thanks. Therefore, Presbytery, do you approve and accept C? 5, approves the basis of severance of the linkage of Carnby Church and Pittenweem Church from the 1st of January 2026. Are there any questions or comments on this one? Therefore, do you approve it? Point 6, receives the annual evaluation and development review and updated Presbytery mission plan. Are there any questions or comments on this plan that anyone would wish to make? David, thank you. David Redmayne's coming.
Moderator. My question is on the Dunfermline cluster of the plan. And my question is, Dunfermline is the fastest growing conurbation in Fife, estimated to grow by 29% in the next decade. And I've done my sums. That would result by 2032 in Dunfermline being a population of about 78,000 people. In the light of this, I'd like to ask the convener, what is the rationale for reducing the ministry allocation from 7 to 6.5 ministries for Dunfermline, and for this reduction to fall upon what will be the largest parish in the cluster and the one with the most significant areas of deprivation, that is St Margaret's and St Ninian's? That's the question. Thank you. Okay.
Sorry,
thank you.
yes, I was checking the amendment that you were also bringing. Okay, would you like to respond to that, Russell?
Thank you, Moderator. Grateful to David for his question. We're not persuaded that we are reducing it. We don't agree with the interpretation of the Presbytery plan that he's working from, but we'll happily engage and follow that through and work on it when he comes to propose his amendment.
Thank you. Sure. There is an amendment to be proposed, so there'll be more discussion on it. We're not closing that down. Thank you so much. Sure, Andrew.
Thank you, Moderator. Andrew Morrison from the East. I'm a bit intrigued by the answer to your question, because I think it's fairly clear, I can't remember the exact numbers, but that the Dunfermline cluster has been reduced by 0.5 across the cluster. Is that correct, or are we all, or am I misunderstanding?
Not trying to opt out of this, Moderator, but I wonder if Mrs. Lennon is better placed to answer this than me.
Teamwork all the way through.
Moderator Gail Lennon, Presbytery Mission Clerk. No, I'm not the clerk.
Mission plan implementation.
Although sometimes I think the clerk wishes I was the clerk. What am I? Yeah, Mission Plan Implementation Officer.
Yes.
Yes, Andrew. At the moment, or in the Presbytery Mission Plan, as it stands in print, Dunfermline as a cluster has 7. I think what Russell was trying to say was that this question would be better answered when we come to the Dunfermline deliverance. In the plan as it stands in print, it says 7. I think what Russell was going towards was that in the legacy plan, it stood at 6. So there's some differential between the 6 and the 7, and we are, yes, proposing to bring it down to 6.5. So in some ways, we're not taking away, you're not fully going back to what you were before. You'll be actually, in some ways, still gaining, but losing, yes. What he was referring to, yes, but those who've taken a bigger hit across Presbytery would probably laugh even more, okay, in fairness, yeah? And you know, some of them might want to get up and talk about the bigger hit that they've took or taken. But I think what Russell's referring to is that in the way that the Presbytery plan was written back in 2022, and again, I think he wants to relate to this when the deliverance comes up, is this idea that St Ninian's and St Margaret's were allocated 1.5.
Thanks, Gail. We'll take a full discussion on that in the Dunfermline area. So we have approved the basis of severance of the linkage with Carnby Church and Pittenweem Church. We move on to point 6, which we did with the annual evaluation. Are there any more questions on the overall at this point in time? Then do we receive and accept it? Changes to the narrative at point 7 on page 35 and adds the words, with St Margaret's Episcopal Church Tayport and Tayport United Free Church, and productive ecumenical relationship established with the new chaplain to Lukers Station, including the development of collaborative worship services. I think that that's a wonderful thing to acknowledge. Are there any questions or comments to be made on this?
Moderator, if I might be allowed to comment, when I accepted the responsibility of this role, I said that one of the things that I wanted to work towards was greater ecumenical engagement, and I'm absolutely delighted that this is appearing now in our report. And I look forward, along with Irene Miller, to further reports of this nature.
We're all delighted. It's a wonderful move and very forward-looking. Thank you so much. Move then to point 8. Presbytery approves the following changes to the Fife Presbytery Mission Plan. And here we begin to look at individual groups. Group A, Burnt Island and Kinghorn Cluster. Auchtertool to be moved to the Burnt Island and Kinghorn Cluster. And point 2, to establish local conversations between Burnt Island and Kinghorn and Auchtertool and work towards the development and formation of a union. Questions or comments on this part? Then does Presbytery approve? Thank you. We move to point B, to the Cooper cluster. Ceres, Kemback and Springfield Church to move from the Cooper cluster into a new East Fife rural cluster. Then Cooper Old and St Michael of Tarvett, Cooper and St John's and Daresey and Monimail to develop and form a union, deferred union, with a ministry allocation of one minister of word and sacrament at the end of the reviewable charge of St John's and Daresey, which is August next year. An OLM to be allocated to work alongside the MWS. Sorry, I'll just read them through and then we'll go back and take them. And then at Cooper St John's building to be recategorised to a B, to be sold, let or otherwise disposed of with local conversations to explore the long-term building needs, including options for a new building. And there's an amendment for that. So if we take it point by point now, point 1, Ceres, Kemback and Springfield Church to move from the Cooper cluster into a new East Fife rural cluster. Are there questions or comments on that one? Jane Barden has left the building, as we say, but Jane's happy and positive about this move to keep on being involved. So do we accept point 1 of this deliverance? We move to point 2, Cooper Old and St Michael of Tarvett, Cooper St John's and Daresey and Monimail to develop and form a union, deferred union, with a ministry allocation of one ministry of word and sacrament at the end of the reviewable charge of St John's and Daresey, August 2026. Are there questions or comments on this? Thank you.
Moderator Gavin Black, the Minister of St John's and Daresey, and the tenure's mine. I just want, just for clarity, to say that it will be the end of the tenure. Might not be August 2026. It might be before that due to retirement dates and end of month stuff and all the rest of it. But so if we just put at the end of the tenure, I think that would be better.
I'm sure we're happy to accept that one. Well done. Are there any other questions or comments on point 2? Then do we accept? Thank you.
Sorry, can I just check? I mean, is that, you want that actually amended in the print? Because actually it's easier just to leave it as it is, which is a reflection of what the actual case is, rather than the hypothetical what the case might be. So if you're moving an amendment, we would need an amendment, but I would prefer it just to stay as it is, if you don't mind.
I don't mind at all.
Excellent.
And all of God's people said. We move then to point 3. An OLM to be allocated to work alongside Ministry of Word and Sacrament and further recommendation of locally funded posts. Are there questions or comments on this one? Are we happy, therefore, to accept? Point 3. Thank you. And finally, at point 4, Cooper St John's building recategorised to a B to be sold or let or otherwise disposed of with local conversations to explore the long-term building needs, including options for the new building. And there is an amendment that outlines those proposals. Are there any questions on this? Are there any comments that anyone would wish to make? I think the amendment is really very helpful to all of us.
Moderator, can I speak to that
You may.
Moderator, thank you very much indeed, Gavin Black, once again, Minister of St John's and Daresey United Parish Church. And I've also got to say a member of the Fife Presbytery Mission Plan Implementation Group, or FPIG, whatever it's called. Okay, I prefer the large language as opposed to just wee letters. But I stand here on behalf of the Kirk Session and to speak on their behalf, not as member of the implementation group. I just heard, you just mentioned that Jane has left the building. In one sense, I'm sorry that she has, because I wanted to mention Reverend Jane Barn, and on behalf of the office bearers of St John's and Daresey, to wish her and the office bearers and members of Ceres, Kenbach, Springfield, Carnby, Kilrenny, Kings Barnes and Largrove Ward every blessing as we've just approved, as they explore their ministry and their call together in community. And we just wish them every blessing in that. It does mean, of course, that they are no longer part of the Cooper cluster. The Cooper cluster has taken, we were talking about hits and we were talking about allocations. The Cooper cluster has taken one of the biggest hits in Presbytery, more than 50%, of a drop from 3 to down to 1.5, and now the new Cooper cluster, as we just agreed, down to 1. With regards to the categorisation and the revised building categorisation for St John's and Daresey from an A to a B, and again I'm speaking on behalf of my session here as we discuss this, and I'm sure you will understand that there is a huge sense of sadness about this, a huge sense of sadness. It's sad when any church building has to close, but it's right as well. It's not necessarily wrong, but it's sad. When any church building has to be sold, let, or otherwise disposed of. And of course, this is happening across the land as we try as a church, as the people of God, as followers of Christ, to focus, and correctly to focus our thoughts on ministry and mission and what it means to be community. It was interesting what we were saying earlier on about parishes and what that actually means. So we get all of that. But there's a sadness. And I want to acknowledge that before Presbytery. Perhaps for St John's and Daresey session, the real sadness is deepened by the fact that it was only 16 months ago that we disposed of Daresey Church and closed that and got rid of that. And now St John's is next. Sadness. For others in the Kirk session, it's not just sadness. For others, it's also surprise. Surprise at the recategorisation, because primarily, and I'm using that word quite specifically, primarily, you're joking.
You've got 50 seconds left.
It's okay.
We acknowledge that. As moderator of Presbytery, as a minister and pastor, we acknowledge the grief in letting go. And personally, we undertook that with the charge that I've just given up as interim moderator, where 2 churches, 2 buildings were lost and they came together as one. We deal with that as grief. That's down to us, people, those of us who are ministers and pastors, to answer it sensitively and understand that people grieve. But through grief, there is also new hope, and it's a new hope that we focus on. So thank you for your comments.
Moderator, if it helps Presbytery, grateful to Gavin for giving us notice of his amendment, and the committee would be happy to accept it.
Thank you so much. We move on then to the East Fife Rural Cluster. Have I missed something? Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. Approve. I got so caught up in the story. Do you approve as amended? New section 4. Thank you. East Fife Rural cluster. Sorry, there's a smile on my face because all that means for me is the football team that used to meet along at Bayview. Create a new cluster in the PMP made up of congregations of Carnby, Kilrenny, Kingsbarns, Largo Ward, previously in the East Nuke cluster and series, Kembach and Springfield, previously in the Cooper cluster. I'm sure we now have a full understanding of how that exchange is going to work. Are there any questions on point 1 of C? Are there any comments to be made? Do you accept it then? Point 2, Carnby, Kilrenny, Kingsbarns and Largo Ward to unite on the 1st of January 2026. Busy month, Gail, January 2026. Becoming East Fife. Yeah, can't say the same thing every time because everybody will know, eh? So here we are, January 2026, becoming East Fife Rural Parish Church of Scotland. So point 2, questions or comments on this? Is there acceptance of it by Presbytery? Point 3, a linkage be formed between Ceres, Kembach and Springfield Church and East Fife Rural Parish Church. Are there any questions or comments? We've heard most of what's been said. Do we therefore accept? Point 4, one ministry of word and sacrament allocated to the linked charge with an OLM post to be allocated to the linkage to work alongside the Minister of Word and Sacrament and recommendation to consider further locally funded posts. Any comments or questions? Do we accept it as it is then? Thank you.
Moderator, if I might make a comment, simply to add on, if I may, on Alec and Gail's behalf, our appreciation to Jane Barron, to the office, to the 3 interim moderators, and to the office bearers of the various Kirk sessions. A whole new thought was placed before them to create a rural parish. And there was a lot of prayer, a lot of discernment, a lot of discussion, and out of that something quite creative and imaginative has emerged. We are very grateful to all of them for their willingness to discuss with us and for their willingness to embrace such a different direction of travel for their congregations.
Thank you so much. I was listening.
Right, okay.
I'm sure everybody was listening, and we really are appreciative. There are just a few changes to the next, and that's what was distracting me, so forgive me. So we then come to the Central Fife cluster. And what I believe that we are looking at is to instruct the committee to meet at the earliest opportunity with the Kirk sessions of the Central Fife cluster to discuss the future mission and worship of the cluster and the adjustment with the Presbytery mission plan that would best serve the missional and spiritual needs of the congregations and people of God throughout the Central Fife cluster area, and report back at the November Presbytery meeting. So this would be the point that other questions and comments may be made in this area. You'll be next, Norman. Thank you.
Thank you, moderator. You're not going to hear that there, right?
I know.
To grow a bit.
I'm with you on that. It has to be low for
yeah,
me.
Thank you. Deborah Dovey, Minister at Beath and Cowdenbeath North Church. I want to say, firstly, thank you to Gail and to Alan for making the time to speak to us earlier this week. This process so far has caused a lot of pain, a lot of anger and a lot of hurt within my own Kirk session. In any change process, those who know anything about change management will know that 2 things need to happen. Firstly, we need to listen to God and to each other, and we need to bring the congregations along with us. Sadly, these things have not always happened during the last 2 years. That has not been our experience. My Kirk session will be delighted when they see the wording of this deliverance, that we're now putting at the heart of our conversation the missional and spiritual needs of our congregations. It's at the heart of who we are as a Kirk session and a congregation, and I think it echoes all that we have heard today already. So I want to say thank you to the Presbytery Implementation Group for giving us just a little bit more time to explore other alternatives to what has already been placed on the table. Thank you, and I hope that Presbytery will approve this deliverance. Thank you.
Thank you. You've heard the deliverance and the comment. Do you wish to say anything? No, sorry, Norman, I've missed you.
Norman Grant, Cairnhill linked with Limekilns, but on this occasion speaking as interim moderator for Kelty. I had a statement from the Kirk session there which has mostly been superseded by the change in the deliverance. And can I say on behalf of Kelty Kirk session, we are very pleased to see this because this was at the heart of what I was going to say on behalf of Kelty, the need for more conversation not because of Kelty having an issue with Kelty, but Kelty not wanting to have an issue in a new parish, in a new congregation being set up, and our concern was very much for Beath and Cowdenbeath North. So thank you very much, and I echo Debbie's plea that this be supported. Thank you.
And the principal clerk's wishing that that would happen at the General Assembly, where somebody doesn't stand up and say the same thing all over again. Thank you so much. Convener, Russell.
Nothing to add to what's been said, moderator, other than to say that I'm sorry there's been hurt and disappointment. I hope that we're able, if not to address everything, but I hope by further consultation we're able to take things forward in a constructive way. And I hope it's a sign to other groups, other clusters, that if they come back to us with constructive proposals, we will listen. This is not set in tablets of stone. It's a work in progress. It always will be. So engage, and we'll do our very best to try and support. There's always a bigger picture which we need to keep in mind, but we'll do our very best, and we're delighted to have further engagements with the parties concerned.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Therefore, with the change in the deliverance, do you accept? Yes. Thank you. And now we move over to Dunfermline, point E. The first is Dunfermline, St Margaret's and St Ninian's Dunfermline to develop and form a union with a ministry allocation of one minister of word and sacrament. And there is also an amendment which is written below. We're calling the amendment, first of all, that we've received from David Redmayne. David, thank you. I'm assured that you all received a copy of this when you came in. It's like trying to get through the cinema, David.
David Redmayne, retired. Who said ha-ha?
Me.
The moderator. Moderator, I first want to say I really appreciate the work of the Fife Presbytery Mission Plan Implementation Group. I can't remember the shorter title of it. I was involved in 2012 in parish mission planning. I actually was a convener, and I remember speaking to that and delivering the Presbytery Plan in 2012, and I ended up going into Edinburgh Royal Infirmary the week after to have a heart bypass operation. I don't think the two are connected, but I recognise the stress that's involved in this. Hope you're okay. But I'm currently I'm currently the locum minister at Dunfermline St Margaret's, and I'm speaking on my own behalf. I'm not speaking as a representative of the Kirk Sessions involved in this. Now, I've come to know the area very well. It's an area with significant deprivation and social and spiritual needs. The combined population of the two parishes
will be 15,000. I'm going by Presbytery's 2022 figures. And it's likely to grow significantly in the next few years. There are 2 high school sites that will be developed into housing. Until this year, negotiations between St Margaret's and St Ninian's based on the Presbytery plan. I don't have any access to the legacy plan. This is the plan which was agreed by Presbytery in 2022, and it spoke of 7 full-time equivalent ministries. And on that basis, St Margaret's and St Ninian's envisaged 1.5 ministries for the area, but this revision would be reduced in the current proposal to 1 ministry. Now, I appreciate that it's now 1 cluster, but when it was the southeast cluster, I'm going into technical details here, but when it was the southeast cluster, St Leonard's was assigned 1 ministry, Dunfermline East was assigned 1.5 ministries. There were 4 ministries to that cluster, so that left 1.5, and the 2 churches remaining were St Ninian's and St Margaret's. So they have rightly, I believe, assumed that 1.5 ministries would be their allocation. So that's been the basis of their understanding. Now, I have a deep personal concern for the well-being of ministers, and I consider this potential parish, and I think of a future minister called to this charge, I feel, knowing the needs of the parish, and it's a parish where, yes, in Abbeyview and in Tuch, they speak a very rich form of the Fife vernacular, as you were speaking about earlier, moderator. Knowing those needs, that minister called to that parish will struggle with stress from the outset without guaranteed additional support. And I say guaranteed because there is talk of OLMs, but OLMs are a precious commodity, but they can't be guaranteed. They're not, they are when they're available. That's why I appeal to Presbytery to amend the proposed plan, amend the proposed change to the plan, and retain the 1.5 for the United Parish, which discussions are going on about. My final thought on this as well, there's been talk of people taking a hit and so on. Well, the parish is already taking a hit. There are 2 parishes which had a full-time minister in both of them. They're being asked to reduce by at least 0.5. But also, I don't want this to be, oh, you're having to take away from somebody in order to give this here. It's not about that. It's what was understood to be the case before, and I believe should continue to be the case. Thank you, moderator.
Thank you.
I propose the amendment.
So the amendment reads for point 1, Dunfermline, St Margaret's and St Ninian's Dunfermline to develop and form a union with a ministry allocation of 1 minister of word and sacrament, and in addition, in consideration of the resultant large parish size and significant degree of deprivation, retain the additional 0.5 full-time equivalent ministry allocation which has previously been available jointly to Dunfermline, St Margaret's and St Ninian's Dunfermline in the Presbytery plan. Do you accept the amendment, Presbytery, or do you wish to ask questions? Was it a seconder, David? Thank you. Seconded. So I'm now bringing it to Presbytery. Yes.
Alan Kimmett, Heart of Fife Parish Church. It's a question for the convener. If we agree this amendment, does that push us over the allocation that we have in the Presbytery Mission Plan? And in that case, how can this amendment go unless there's another amendment that balances it? We have an allocation of 44.5 posts. We cannot, I believe, go to 45 posts, which is what this amendment's saying. So that was my question.
We can't now accept this. We would have to find 0.5 from somewhere else. So that would answer Alan's question.
God bless you. But that's good. Well done.
Mary Ann Rennie, Dunfermline Abbey, I think. I've long recognised that being the minister of the Abbey means that you're often not liked. And Presbytery for me is often not a lovely experience, because I've arrived at Presbytery and people have gone, where are you from? And I've gone, I'm from Dunfermline Abbey. And I suspect that when I leave this afternoon, I will not be popular. I want to move against this motion, because I think we have to stop playing the numbers game. If I played the numbers game and I looked at what is being asked of Dunfermline Abbey, Dunfermline North and St Leonards, then we are potentially looking at a parish area of 20,000 people with known to be 3 villages being added into the Dunfermline Abbey area, with the spades going in the ground at some point this year. We have to stop playing the numbers game. In our area of Dunfermline, we have to start working together. One of the saddest things that I find at my session meeting is I'm often the least willing person to change. I want to keep my small parish because I know the weight of the rest of the work I do that isn't necessarily associated with my congregation is instead involved in the civic life. However, my Kirk session constantly call for change, and they feel like they're on hold as we wait and we wait for our area to come to some form of agreement on how we go forward. So what I would want to ask is that we value what we are receiving from John Duncan, and that we take time as the Dunfermline congregations to work on how we share our workload together. How do we as elders and ministers within the Dunfermline area share the workload across Dunfermline? We cannot constantly rely on our boundaries. Instead, we have to be prepared to work beyond our boundaries and recognise that our gifts are there to be shared and not held within the boundary of our parish.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Are there any other comments? And no questions? We shall return to the convener.
Thank you, moderator. Grateful to David and to Mary Ann. As you can sense, there's nothing easy about any of this, and the committee has enormous sympathy for the concerns that David has raised. However, the reality is that if Presbytery accepts this, then we would need to take 0.5 from somewhere else in the Dunfermline cluster. That's the reality. I want to echo what Mary Ann is saying and use it as an opportunity to find other ways of working together, not just with our own Church of Scotland colleagues, but with ecumenical colleagues. But I also want to say, and you'll have seen in the print, an amendment from Hugh Conkey. The committee is very minded to accept that, so if you are minded not to accept this, then we are very willing to continue to explore and discuss with the Dunfermline cluster how best to resource the ministry in the ministry allocation in their cluster.
So the convener is not minded to accept this amendment. Presbytery, are you willing to receive the amendment?
Donald Laurie, Octodene Classy Parish Church. We've had heartfelt things here today, both in terms of we have to take away to give to another. So the only thing that I would like to add is an underlining of what the convener has just said, that we need to work together better. But there is a very real passion among some of us about the welfare of the whole church, but particularly about the welfare of parish ministers. And what I heard my colleague David say was, the new minister that's going to come into this situation is going to be under stress from the get-go. Numbers are important, but they're not the whole picture. And with the heartfelt plea that came from Margaret Ann and David, both have to be held in some realistic and productive way forward. So I'm only adding to what's been said in the sense that if the convener can assure us as a presbytery that there will be better support in some way or another, I'm not trying to say how we do that, but if there can be better support in one way or another, that might help David relax a bit. That will certainly help me relax a bit, who's on the same committee as David, who's seriously concerned about the welfare of ministers in the Church of Scotland. Then I think we can let the deliverance as it stands go forward, so long as we have the assurance that it won't stop there, because I sense in this room that people are pulled in two directions. But there is a heart today, from the very beginning, from the worship, what was said about the stuff that I hate, law in the church, that we need to do better as a church, as a whole church. So I don't want to go on any longer, don't want to speechify, I don't want to move into preaching, but I would like some assurance from the convener that indeed, it's not that I don't trust them, but just as a presbytery, can we have it on record and underlined that there will be a determination to reduce the stress for everybody and take on board very seriously what both of my colleagues have said. Thank you very much, Moderator.
I'm sure that the convener has already given that undertaking and underwritten it, but the clerk would like to speak before the convener does. Thank you.
I think, now having looked at it and taken advice, that we would have to say that your amendment, I'm afraid, David, is technically incompetent because of the arithmetic of the numbers, and therefore it would be improper for the presbytery to accept it and vote on it, I'm afraid, while recognising, therefore, at the same time what Donald has just said. I think rather than trusting the mind of presbytery to be moved by things like that, it's always happier if we have it in print and can consider it. It might be something that could be put into the pastoral care report as it comes later in the afternoon. Graham Beebe's sitting right behind you. You might work on something together. But seriously, if you want us to do something, please give us something to do. But I accept all the points made. However, the main point, I think, is that I don't think we can accept that amendment as being legally competent. I appreciate the fact that you gave us advance notice of it and we were able to put it in the print for today, but perhaps not advanced enough for us to go through all the legal implications. But I think we have to ask you to withdraw it, David.
Jeff Redmayne. Yes, I'm David's brother. It's not for that reason I'm standing up. Retired. I'm just wondering, and this is a question, how we got into a situation where Presbytery, this is incompetent. Because Presbytery has an allocation, how many was it? 44.5. And Presbytery has agreed a Presbytery plan that allocates those out. And that's the plan that is currently in place. So somewhere along the line, Presbytery must have agreed changes to that plan without seeing the overall picture. Or how? I suppose that's the question really. How has it got to a point where one bit of cluster is being reduced from 7 to 6.5 or whatever it is?
Okay, we'll take this as a question, Jeff.
It is a question. How did we get to a point where one little bit of this appears to be incompetent?
Well, I think
yeah. thank you to David's younger and better-looking brother for that question. There are ways of increasing the allocation that Presbytery can have. For example, temporarily, if we had to adjust it on a deferred union, for example, you can add a number in to the amount that you've got, takes you above that amount, but when the union takes place, then it comes back below. However, the allocation is 44.5. Now, unless you identify somewhere where we can take it away from somewhere else in the presbytery, you are asking us to add 0.5 back into the plan. I think that's the simplest way to express it. So if perhaps I'd had more time to consider it before it was on the floor of presbytery, we'd have sorted this out before it got to the floor of presbytery. But the fact remains that at the moment, as it stands, this amendment is incompetent. I don't like the word incompetent. I don't think presbytery can accept it.
We've got.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's why I was reading it out. We've got a few people who wish now to speak. So therefore, Andrew, your hand was up first, and then we'll come to you, Donald.
Moderator, Andrew Morris, I don't have strong views on the actual 1.5 thing and where that actually is allocated. But I think what has happened here, I need to form this into a question, is that everyone's the 0.5, and it goes actually back to the very first question that David asked about the 0.5 and the lack of clarity about whether 0.5 has been taken away or not. 0.5 has been taken away, and it's been given elsewhere. But Presbytery was not asked directly, do you wish to take 0.5 away from Dunfermline cluster and give it to such and such? And so I think that for me is where I'm getting confused, and I think possibly, so people are wondering, where's the 0.5 gone? And that, because the Presbytery's never agreed to give the 0.5 elsewhere, although I think you actually have without realising it.
Thanks, Andrew. That's helpful. And Hugh, before you come, let's hear what Gail would have to say that might help us clarify.
So in the annual evaluation and development review, an updated Presbytery mission plan document that was sent out over 4 weeks ago, in that document, there is a table that shows the allocation that adds up to 44.5, and it shows Dunfermline as having 6.5, and it shows Cooper as dropping from 1.5 to 1, and it shows a new created cluster as having 1. There's your 0.5, and there's your 0.5 that creates the 1. That document was sent out over 4 weeks ago. There's your explanation of the 0.5 that was lost from Dunfermline, lost from Cooper, to create a new parish. A new cluster. Okay? 4.5 weeks ago.
Okay, Gail. Hugh. Thank you. I thought it would be helpful for us to hear that. And we all understand Gail's frustration in that when information has gone out before for us to read and understand, that it bounces back. So, you want to come back in, David?
Originally, when I drafted this document, which said, and rearrange the plan accordingly, would that make it competent?
And rearrange the plan accordingly would not therefore involve adding a number in. That would therefore, I think I'm right in saying, be within the power of Presbytery to do that, because you're not adding something in. However, that's not what the amendment says.
No, the amendment says retain the additional 0.5 full-time equivalent, and that's where our problems have arisen. So, I've allowed you to come back. I think the clerks responded and said that would make a difference because there's still a figure in the amendment.
Well, I deal with what's in front of me, and what's in front of me, I think, is out of order, I think.
Can I add it in?
Well, the debate's closed, so technically,
It's
no. I mean, I'm sorry, David, because as I say, if I had more time and seen this earlier, we could have gone through this, but I didn't. However, the legal position is that we cannot accept the amendment that you proposed. That debate was closed. You're now adding something else in. There is an amendment from Hugh Conkey, which is coming up, which may allow some wriggle room going forward, if Presbytery is minded to accept it. But I think your amendment, I think we've gone as far with it as we possibly can.
So
Can I just say, I withdraw the amendment.
Thank you, David.
But I want to say that I really appreciate the debate that we've had over this, because it has highlighted a number of issues which are really important to me, and I believe to the parish, and I hope to the whole of
Presbytery. We agree entirely.
Oh, and I will supporting the next amendment.
So we're not dealing with that at all because the word is incompetent, but that sounds a bit cruel, but I would just say it's not relevant at this time. It's been withdrawn. Thanks, Alan. So we move to the Amendment 2, which is from Hugh Conkey, which we feel might help.
Thank you, Moderator. Hugh Conkey, Interim Moderator at St Ninian's in Dunfermline. I would like to just say thank you to the Presbytery for the discussion we've had. I think it's been very helpful. And I would echo most of Mr Redmayne's points. This motion has been discussed in both Kirk sessions, and both Kirk sessions would agree with it. And the reason that we did not make this motion to have 1.5, to have 0.5 added, is for exactly the legal reasons that have come forward just now. I don't wish to say take up Presbytery's time, given that we've had this discussion already. But I would like to say that union negotiations between Dunfermline St Margaret's and Dunfermline St Ninian's are actually going ahead quite well now, and hopefully may see fruit of that at the next meeting. But we are seeking further engagement with the committee. I'm very happy to hear that the convener is willing to accept this amendment and look forward to having further discussions with him. I'm sure that all the churches in Dunfermline would be able to help each other rather better if we had the extra 0.5 member of staff. Thank you.
The amendment's before you, and it's for point 1. Is it seconded? It's seconded. Are you minded to accept Hugh's amendment?
Moderator would be glad to take up this amendment and explore with people. Clearly, there are issues and questions and different assumptions and different understandings. That's good that that's been aired. Just remind Presbytery of a previous meeting when we spoke about the care of ministers and Kirk sessions involved in the care and support, and that's a very live thing with Kirk sessions at the moment. Just anxious to hear somebody feeling as though a new minister is going to be under stress from day one. There's a lot of support and available that's there, and I think members of sessions would be anxious to feel as though they're going to be supporting their new minister whenever that person is appointed. But very happy to accept this and to explore further and to come back to Presbytery when we can.
I think that's brilliant. I think that's what we all appreciate. And with the facilitator, lots more discussions to be had. And again, taking time to undertake those discussions. And, you know, I always believe that if you leave a wee gap, I call them God gaps, it's amazing how the Holy Spirit can come in and something brand new can be created, as you've already said today. So thank you. So with that amendment, does Presbytery accept point 1 on the Dunfermline situation? Point 2, Dunfermline Abbey, Dunfermline North and Dunfermline St Leonard's to enter into local conversations to discern the shape of ministry and adjustment for these congregations. And in the first instance, Dunfermline Abbey and Dunfermline North to explore the possibility of developing and forming a union with a ministry allocation of one MWS with the possibility of a local mission church. A decision on this to be reached before the next annual review of the Presbytery Mission Planning Group. Dunfermline St Leonard's continuing with the transition ministry of One Word and Sacrament with local discussions at a later stage. So it seems that this is talking about more discussion and ongoing discussion taking place. Are there any questions on this section? Are Presbytery willing to accept section 2?
Moderator, and we're very grateful to local parties for their willingness to engage and discuss further.
Thank you. Point 3, an OLM or reader to be allocated to each of the above unions, along with further recommendations to consider further locally funded posts. Seems a good move to me. Does Presbytery have any questions or comments there? Come in.
Moderator, thank you. Morag Wilkinson, fourth view, and wearing the sparkly hat of IM at St Margaret's. I've noted as we've gone through, and I noted when I was reading it as well, that a lot of these unions and adjustments are, it says, an OLM will be allocated, or an OLM or a reader will be allocated. I'm also aware when I looked at the roll, we don't have that many OLMs and readers. And we've just had the discussion of how deprived an area the new St Ninians and St Margaret's and St Ninians parish will be. And it says, yes, we'll get an OLM or a reader. And St Margaret's had a long-standing, great relationship with the late Gordon Brown as reader at St Margaret's. And they know what a reader can do. But not all readers are in the position that Gordon was in. He was retired and could dedicate loads of time to St Margaret's. Not all readers are retired, not all OLMs are retired. So we're promising an OLM to these unions, or a reader. Can we actually fulfill that? Where are these OLMs and readers coming from?
So that's the question. Convener, do you want to comment?
Not really.
That was a good move, wasn't it?
I'm going to quote off the top of my, sorry, Moderator, Gail Lennon, Mission Plan Implementation Officer and not the clerk. Off the top of my head, I think there's an allocation, Morag, thank you for the question. I think there's an allocation of 4 OLMs or readers. I think this one says or readers, I think the other 2. So yes. There's two OLMs or readers here, and I think there's 2 other OLMs allocated in the plan, one to Cooper and one to the new East Fife rural cluster. I think that's what it's called. My brain's gone a bit mush this afternoon, okay? So I think that's 4 OLMs, this one, or readers. At the moment, in Presbytery, on the Presbytery Row, we have that capacity. It's our responsibility as a presbytery to speak to these people, to enter dialogue with these people. Remember at the last presbytery meeting, where are you, Martin? Wave your hand at me, Martin. Martin spoke about how readers need to be better used and allocated and resourced across Presbytery. So it's time for us to have that dialogue with readers and OLMs to see what it is they want to do across Presbytery and how we can better use their skills and talents. Was it yourself? Was it Fiona? I forgot who spoke this morning about what. Fiona talking about, the body of Christ and how we use them better and allocate them across Presbytery. So yes, that is something we need to look at and address and start to get into dialogue with them. But I feel, and I might be putting my neck on the line here, that we have those resources, and it's how we start looking and getting conversations going to start that allocation. I hope that's helpful.
It is helpful. It's a new process. So we now move. Yes?
Sorry, moderator. Hugh Conkey again. I can understand why Gail's brain is a bit stressed at this point in the afternoon. As you understand, I had a cause to look very closely at the Presbytery plan when we were preparing for this. And Gail is quite right when she talks about the changes that are being made to the plan today. If you take into account the parts of the plan that were set in 2022 and not changed today, by my count, 3 congregations are promised OLMs, 7 are promised OLMs or readers, and 1 is promised a reader. So that makes 11 OLMs or readers. The original version of the Presbytery roll that came out a week or 2 ago had 5 OLMs and 8 readers on it. So, we have 13 people and 11 promises, so we can just about make it if people are willing to move around.
Thank you, Hugh. So point.
Moderator, I'm just really pleased somebody's read it cover to cover. Thank you, Hugh.
You deserve that last comment, Gail. So it was point 3. Is that accepted by Presbytery? And if I'm correct, we move on to point F in the East Nuke, which is Carnby, Largo Ward, Kilrenny and Kingsbardens, to form a new cluster area, East Fife Rural Area Cluster. Are there any questions or comments on this? Do Presbytery therefore accept this deliverance? The next one, if you could indicate to me, it's about Pittenweem, St Isle, Anstruther and Cellardyke to be developed and form a union and agree a basis of linkage with Crail. This change will have a ministry allocation of 1 Ministry of Word and Sacrament. Are there going to be any questions or comments on this? In that case, my friend Jim is coming to take the chair because I don't want anyone to say that I have a not undeclared interest.
Thank you, moderator. Question, sir? All right.
Dave Rayside, Pittenweem. I'd just like to give you a very brief report on our process towards union with St Iles. Our negotiations are proceeding very positively. Amicable relations between our congregations are developing very well. We have agreed with St Isle to have a service in Pittenweem every 3rd Sunday. So that's how we're going to divide out our 1 minister. We are also proceeding to move forward regarding disposal of our buildings. We're a little bit happy about having no buildings left whatsoever, but we can live with that. We have to. And we're looking into possible venues for our services once our church is closed or sold or disposed of, as we would like for worship to continue in Pittenweem after that event. Among the options on offer is a very generous one from St John's Episcopal Church, who have basically offered the use of their church. Details of this will need to be negotiated. I think times of service could be a problem. Hopefully it will work out. We already have occasional joint services with St Iles, which have all gone very well. And we'll be having a joint harvest Thanksgiving with St John's, the Episcopal Church. So everything's looking quite good, given that we're being bombed out a bit. Okay, thank you.
Thanks for those encouraging pointers, particularly the ecumenical one that Camino was indicating earlier on. Any other comments or questions? Presbytery minded to approve? Thank you. Moderator.
It may be just my kind of mind and poor sense of humour, but when those words were being spoken, I was reminded of old Mr. Grace and Are You Being Served, and wanted to say, you've all done very well. We move on now to point G, which is Kirkcaldy. Dysart, St Clair and Pathhead to enter conversations to develop and form a deferred union. Are there questions or comments on this one? Then are Presbytery minded to accept? Thank you. Point 9. Presbytery approves the annual evaluation and development review and updated Presbytery mission plan as a whole. Is Presbytery minded to receive this?
Moderator, although I am always far too willing to accept the credit for anything that goes even remotely well, I hope you will agree with me that the force behind all of this work has been our implementation officer, Gail Lennon, and I hope you'll join me in expressing our warmest thanks to her.
Presbytery surely did, but we thank you because teamwork is the very best thing, and drawing skills alongside with someone is just marvellous. So we have... well, I don't want that. I know what that's like. We don't want anybody in the huff. Go in peace. We move then from this matter of business to the Board of Management report.
Moderator, members of Presbytery, John McMillan from Balmerino and Wormit. You'll be glad to know I'm going to be very brief.
I've just had a whisper in my ear to say those who have been cited and wish to leave might feel free to do so now. Thank you for being here. No.
So, the Board of Management report, just 3 things to highlight. First of all, I spoke in June about the importance of safeguarding records. I urge you to the conclusion this is not a chore or a burden. It's an opportunity to do things well. And I heard Fiona speak to a similar theme this morning.
Mm-hmm.
We're encouraging you to agree a deliverance, which is that all people in the ministerial role of whatever sort will provide evidence of their safeguarding training if it hasn't been provided before, and assuming they're not retired by the end of October, so 6 weeks' time. That would either be a certificate of training, or if you can't find a certificate, tell us when you did the training and we'll see if we can help. And if you can't do that, then our second request is that you undertake training by June 2026. So there's plenty of scope for getting it done. Second point is that our friends at Eden Tay, particularly Newborough, came to the board explaining about a real water ingress problem they had. So we made a decision on that, which we're just asking you to homologate. And the final thing in which I have to declare an interest is that Balmerino and Wormit Kirk Session have now reached the decision which Gavin would have categorised as sad, to put the Balmerino Church and Hall on the market. But we need your approval to get that to 121. Just a slight comment on that. That church has been in place for 215 years. If you've never been, it's one of the most beautiful churches you'll ever visit. But it's also got a link to Balmerino Abbey, which was established from 1227, so within a tiny corner of 1,000 years of Christian mission in that community. So I think that will appear as an additional deliverance, but With those comments, I ask you to receive the report and move the deliverance, moderator.
So then, do you receive the report? With the finance, do you note the report on finance? Do you join with me in giving thanks to the attestation teams for all their hard work? Thank you. Safeguarding, note the report. Instructs all ministers of OLMs, readers, deacons, except those who are fully retired, to provide evidence of attendance. This is under safeguarding. Graham.
I'll try and make this very quick. Graham Beebe, Cameron St Leonard St Andrews. I just would like clarification. I attended, along with others here, the Minister's Advanced Training a couple of weeks ago, and a certificate was issued. However, we were also told that the Presbytery would be informed. I really would like clarification on this, whether it is down to ministers to pass on the certificates. I've done that to my own safeguarding coordinator in my own church, and also actually to the church I am indeed blessed to be shortly minister of. But we were told that it would be, presbyteries would be informed, and there was not a requirement for us to do this. So could we please have, is this belt and braces stuff? Could we have clarification?
The answer, Graham, is if you know the office have got that certification already, then you don't need to do anything. But you may remember I said in June that way over half of our ministers, OLMs, readers, deacons, apparently have not completed this training. So we're trying to sweep all that up because we need to have the data. But in your case, it will be there, I'm sure.
David Redmayne, retired. Could you please give us a little bit clarity on the expression, except those that are fully retired?
Personally, I think, David, it might mean when they finally lay us down to rest.
No idea about retirement. I can't help you with that. Just to go back to the question which Graham asked, the actual position, as I have been instructed from the safeguarding people at 121, is that ministers will be responsible for maintaining their own record. Yes, we have been told that you were at the training, and they said you were a good boy and did extremely well, Graham, and they're very pleased with you, and they wanted to come back. No, but yes, they've told us. You've actually got a piece of paper, certificate. But my understanding, and it was quite clearly put to us in the Presbytery office, was that ministers themselves are responsible for keeping the record of their training, which for me is a nightmare because, frankly, I forget how many of these things I've been on and which one was which. I'm going to have to work it out. But ministers are responsible. That, of course, being helpful, they will tell the Presbytery office. But you're responsible for your own record.
Sorry, just for clarification, I apologize, I'm not coming all the way back.
No.
So I should send in the certificate.
To who?
To the office.
No, keep it. Keep it. You keep it.
No, I have my certificate.
Yeah?
I don't have to send one to the office.
No, you keep it. Sorry?
As to the question of what is or who is retired, the whole purpose of this is that if in your ministerial role you're interacting with, say, children in the front of the church in a junior church environment, or you're going to a care home on a pastoral visit where there are vulnerable people, you must be safeguarded and covered. So you can tell me whether you're retired or not. If you're doing none of that work and you're sitting in your veranda smoking your pipe, you are retired. But if you're interacting with people pastorally or ministerially, you're not retired. It's not difficult.
Alan.
Moderator, since I have the luxury of a laptop in front of me, the safeguarding guidance on the web page says, ministers, for the purposes of safeguarding training learning pathway, means parish ministers, interim ministers, transition ministers, auxiliary ministers, probationers, OLM, readers, locums, and armed forces chaplains. Therefore, if a retired minister is a locum, they're clearly part of that list.
Thank you. Shall we move on?
Just on a point of clarity on who's retired and who's not retired, it's my experience in the Church of Scotland that when you stop receiving your stipend and you get kicked out the manse, that a lot of ministers are still engaged in ministry. So I think there's a technical understanding of what retirement is, and there's the reality, and I think that's where the clarity was being sought. So if you are a retired minister who's non-stipended but still actively in ministry in the sense that you're helping out in a congregation or you're dealing with children or visits, as has been said, then you need to be safeguarded and do safeguarding training. That's my understanding. On the other hand, if you're sitting there smoking your pipe and you're done with the kirk, then you don't need it.
Unanimous. Please come in. You really need to come to the mic. Be brave. Well done. Questions are always acceptable.
I'm Christine Moody, and I'm from King's Barnes Church, and I'm an elder there, and also helped to run Messy Church, or started in running it. And I understand, I could be wrong in this, but everybody working with children or with people in any capacity within the church, particularly elders, I thought all elders had to do the training as well.
That's right.
And I just wondered if that is the case.
That is the case.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for asking. It is the case. Thank you very much. Convener. Thank you so much. So we move then. On this issue, do you accept Presbytery point 5? On property, do you note the property report? Do you homologate the decision of the Board of Management to spend that £120,000? Did you homologate it? Yes, thank you. And then there was a new deliverance. Is it behind me? The new deliverance 8 is that approved by Presbytery. Thank you so much. Thank you, John. We now move on to the Board of Mission report. It's a shame you're so far on in the day. Eh?
Yeah, I'm about sleeping.
You're fine.
Pamela Scott, Deacon at St. Serph's, Lochillie and Benarty, moderator. The report is basically as in print. I'll just go and sit back down. But no, I want to say a bit more about the action plans that Fiona spoke about this morning in the Presbytery Mission Plan Act. It states that each charge is to have a 5-year action plan. The action plan is to set out aims and objectives, a timescale for achievement, notes of annual progress, and a traffic light indicator of the status in 12 areas. And they are worship and teaching, pastoral care and fellowship, youth and children, local mission and community outreach, wider mission, which will include ecumenical work, interfaith relations and relationships with the world church, finance, communication, property, HR and staffing within the charge, and relationships with provisions of the approved mission plan for Presbytery. Now, if you've not got an action plan, that sounds like a really, really daunting task. So the Board of Mission are proposing that the Mission Director will help and support charges to do this. Obviously, there's a lot of charges, so this is going to have to take place over quite some time. And she will help maybe about 5, did we say, charges per year. So it might be a three-year thing. I would suggest, if you're able, get on with it. But she will be there to help. And finally, on behalf of the board, I'd like to wish Ali Stark best wishes as he prepares for his ordination and induction to Belhaven and Spot in Dunbar. Best wishes. Moderator, I present the report to move the deliverance.
Thank you. Does Presbytery receive the report? Do you note all assessors, mentors and formation partners are in place for discernment candidates and candidates in training? Do you note the presentation? Of course, makes it more exciting.
I want to commit additional elder from Heart of Fife, but also part of the Church and World Task Group who organised the presentation on the legacies of slavery. I just wanted to say it was a really encouraging event that we had. There wasn't a huge turnout. We were in single figures, but we have met our duty as part of a General Assembly deliverance to engage with a consultation led by Morella Yandoli at 121 about this legacy of slavery. And if anyone would like to know more, despite having not had the opportunity to attend the event, I encourage you to get in touch either with the Church and World Task Group or with Morella herself.
Thank you so much. Well done for having it. Yes.
Sorry, I know it's late in the day and everyone's tired. Gail Lennon, can I just echo what Iona said? It was an exceptional evening. It was a really emotional evening, listening to what was said. And I would just like to encourage people, when these events are held and put on, and the time and effort that is gone to put these on, please try and go along to them if you can. I learnt so much that evening, but also I'm just going to mention one thing that was said about these young people in Jamaica whose parents bleached their children's skin to give them better life opportunities. I was sat in tears at that stage because I thought of my daughter who puts fake tan on because she wants it to be like, you know, more tanned because it looks good. Right, so my 18-year-old daughter putting fake tan on and these parents bleaching their children's skin to give them better opportunities in life. It was so emotional. So when our task group set up these opportunities for us to go along and learn more about what's happening in the wider world and the wider mission of our church, please try and go along. Just take a couple hours out of your month, out of your 3 months, out of your year to go along and support these things, because it was an excellent evening.
Thank you. We were on holiday last week, so I couldn't be there, and I was disappointed because one of the things we did was visit 2 stately homes. Both of the stately homes and estates had been supported by slavery and the sugar market. So thank you. We might manage to introduce something of that for Presbytery at some future date. So point 3, received. Point 4, note the services planned to celebrate the 3rd anniversary of the St. Margaret Declaration. 5, encourage those who receive funding from Mission Fund to engage with Mission Director regarding the use of funds. Any questions on that or willing to receive it? Accept. Point 6 then, approves the action to be taken regarding action plans. That's a funny one, isn't it? Action to act. I'm sure you're on board with that. And finally, note and pray for all the mission events that will take place throughout Fife Presbytery. Thank you, convener. Oh, is there one more? Oh, Ali Stark's one. Oh, Ali. Don't worry, you're not off the hook yet. Not until we all go home. So do we acknowledge Alec's movement into ministry? Thank you so much. There is an oral report on behalf of the Pastoral Care Group.
Moderator Graham Beebe, Cameron St Leonard's, and also convener of the Pastoral Support Group. I'll make this as quick as I can for Presbytery. Moderator, members of Presbytery, I bring you this brief report. First of all, Presbytery chaplains, we are grateful to have a committed and a dedicated team of Presbytery chaplains who have been faithfully serving us for just over 4 years. One of those chaplains, Kate Douglas, has now decided that the time has come for her to step back. And I would like to record the thanks of the PSG to Kate for the skill and compassion that she has brought to that role, but I'd also like to add my own personal thanks because Kate was my chaplain. And I am extremely grateful to her for her kindness, for her support, for her time, and for her ability to make an excellent cup of coffee. As we look ahead, we would welcome suggestions from members of Presbytery of people who believe that they may have skills and gifts suited to this ministry of chaplaincy. We're very aware that we don't know everyone, and so you may know people who you believe have a particular gift, a skill for this, professional or otherwise, and if you put them in touch with us, or if you put us in touch with them, that would be a huge help. On pastoral supervision groups, Presbytery will recall that at the last meeting we gave notice that we were in the process of forming a new group. A new pastoral supervision group is being established in the Glenrothes area with 5 people already signed up. The group will be facilitated by Bob Wharton, who is currently in touch with participants to arrange the first meeting. We want to draw Presbytery's attention to the importance of these groups, something that we've done in the past, especially as we see a growing number of unions being approved and therefore new ministers, those in ministry, coming into our presbytery. In light of this, the pastoral support group feel it is only fair to say to Presbytery that we anticipate that there may be a need to establish a further group, a fourth group, fourth supervision group in the not too distant future. And we would call it to your attention that we flagged up the new third group around about this time last year. And we are now saying that third group is in place. So this will be an increasing need within the presbytery, particularly among those new to ministry who have more of an expectation of supervision. And frankly, that's an expectation that we should match. And so we just wish to flag that up with presbytery. The Advent Retreat, advance notice of this year's Advent Retreat, which will take place on, no, I've got a bit more to go, so just in case you're one, you can sit down again if you want. On Thursday, 24th of November, not that I'm telling you what to do, moderator. On the 27th of November at the Oswald Hotel in Dunecker Park, Kirkcaldy. Now, plans are progressing. Is that? Yep. And we hope to build the retreat around the theme Birth of Hope. Okay? Further details and publicity will be shared in due course, but for now, all we really ask you to do is to save that date. Now, moderator, I'm very conscious of what my friend and colleague Donald said earlier on. We have been reminded today of the importance of support for those engaged in ministry, particularly as they seek to navigate change in their lives and in the life of the congregation. However, I would also like to remind Presbytery that while it is not the remit of the PSG, we need also to look to support sessions and congregations as they work to help those in ministry, but also themselves to navigate those same changes. This is important, particularly at this time, which is an exciting time, but is also a challenging time. From my own point of view, I have through the last couple of weeks been working through the expectations that are being voiced to me around my role and place in the union that I am about to be part of versus my ability to pivot what skills I have to meet those expectations. And at times I am confident, and at times, frankly, I am not. We need to support one another to find ways ahead. It is something we've heard before, and it is something we need to continue to hear, and we have that role. And finally, moderator, Presbytery will be aware, just from what has been in the papers up to now, that Eileen Miller is about to move on to be transition minister in Langton. So it means that she will be stepping back and down as the pastoral care coordinator. Eileen has held this position for just over a year. In that time, she has brought her own very considerable skills and talents to this position, as well as her kindness, her friendship, her sense of humour. And she will be a huge miss to the PSG. However, our loss is definitely Langton's gain, undoubtedly. And if I am sure of anything at the moment, it is that Eileen has the gifts, the skills, and most importantly, the calling for this ministry. And I need Eileen to know that we will be praying for her, the PSG, but I'm sure the whole presbytery will be praying for her. And I need also Kirkcaldy and Langton to know how fortunate they are. How fortunate they are to have this opportunity to have Eileen with them. And I wish them and I wish her every blessing for the future. Moderator, thank you very much. Sorry, moderator. See, I had a bit of paper behind. I just want to remind Presbytery, my Presbytery will have received, or ministers certainly will receive, churches will have received the minister's well-being paper that was put out a little bit earlier this month by the Presbytery office. I commend this to you. Don't just file it away somewhere on your computer. Keep it handy because it has invaluable information both on what we do locally and what is done nationally, and is very helpful. I need to spend a lot of time putting it together. Parish Sport Group glanced at it and said, great job. So, and the Presbytery office was involved in well. So please, I commend this paper to you and to your care and attention. Thank you. Oh, yes, sorry. Yeah, of course you can. He has.
Jim Reed, Buntown and Kinghorn Beck Ecumenical Partnership. One would think in 40 years of ministry that there's nothing new under the sun. But a telephone conversation recently in the last week with a funeral director sadly has shown that there is. Funeral director, no names, no pack drill. There's a family in a neighbouring parish. They don't want a woman minister to do the funeral. Once I recovered from my shock, I gave the reply, not me, and I was hoping none of my colleagues would be stepping in there. Thankfully, the minister in question is doing the funeral. My concern is misogyny can soon become racism. I don't want an African minister or a South African minister doing my funeral. I don't want it can become homophobia. I don't want a gay minister. So let's be supporting each other against misogyny, racism, nationalism, homophobia. I appeal to serving colleagues and however you define retired colleagues. I won't go there, but please be supporting each other.
Moderator, that wasn't really a question from Jim, but I'm sure Presbytery have already indicated how they would feel about that, and certainly we would align ourselves with that.
Thank you, great. No, it's inappropriate. She sees as a guest.
Can I get a quick question? Yeah. Beg your pardon, Graham, I was just taking a note. The Advent retreat, I got two dates in your speech, one 24th and one 27th. Which is it? 27th. Thank you.
Graham, thank you for your report. On my behalf and Presbytery's, Eileen, you know how much we love you, and we're so looking forward to you in this new challenge, and it will be a challenge, and we're here to support you in that challenge. So be assured of that. Wonderful news that we're standing up to what we're seeing in the world through Jim and what he had to say. We are better than all this bigotry. So thank you, Jim, for bringing that too. So now we turn to the clerk's business.
Thank you very much indeed, Moderator. On that last subject there, I was rather alarmed today when somebody identified this as being a MAGA tie, which I didn't realise was there. It's not. It's got little white dots on it, right? It's not a MAGA tie. However, the report is basically as you have it in the print. A couple of points to take out of that. The first is the general trustee determinations. These are simply intimations that we have to make in case there's any protest against them. A late one has come in. It's for the East Newt Trinity, sale of the manse at East Newt Trinity. So that will be added into the notification of determinations that you have in your hands. There are about half a dozen of them. It's a procedural thing that we do for the general trustees. So that's East Newt Trinity, if Presbytery are happy to accept that as a late notification. The business of the Presbytery Review, we spoke about this last month, and we were going to find somebody independent to kind of not preempt the Presbytery Review proper, but just to put us through our paces, have a look at us, see what we're doing, see if we're doing the right things, see how we're doing them. It became very difficult to find somebody from outside the Presbytery who was prepared to spend the time, and I can understand why. We're all busy. The view of the business committee is that we should revert to plan A, which was to get this to be done internally. This is not in any way an alternative to the Presbytery Review, which is coming our way. I don't know how the schedule works, but in 3 years' time, I think possibly will be the subject of it. But it is to review all our processes and also what we do and why. And you'll see in the report that the suggestion has come from the business committee that this reverts back to the moderator in the first instance, and we'll see how the moderator thinks that we should proceed with this. Hugh was asking me last month or the last meeting, who would go to, and I asked him to trust me. So I ask you to trust me again. The moderator will do a good job in this regard. Just another couple of things which aren't in the print. Just for your information, I go out on a Sunday when I'm asked. A list of the places I've been recently preaching is Kilrenny, Crail and St Isle, Balmolity, Port and Luchers, St Mark's, St Leonard's, that was a joint service in St Andrews, Springfield, New Hope Church, Kirkcaldy. You'll notice how many of those are in the north or east Duke of Fife. I live in Stirling. People know me better in the south of Fife, and nobody there ever asked me. So please, I'm very happy to go anywhere in the south of Fife if you want pulpit supply. And just for your information, I don't charge pulpit fee either. You know, mileage yes, but pulpit fee no. However, just the serious point is when I'm asked, I do go out. I will help. Some of these were emergencies. Some of these were well trailed. So that's where I've been. I will be going off for a few days, twice before the end of the year, to take part in a Place for Hope course, Faith in Change and Conflict, a special course run by Place for Hope, which trains people in how to deal with conflict issues, particularly around change. I think, Eileen, you did this course last year. Yeah. Beginning of the year. Well, the place was made available, and I was asked if I thought I would like to go, and I thought it was a very good idea, especially since the Church of Scotland is paying for it. So that is coming up. I'm continue to be busy with the Clerks Forum, where the Presbytery clerks get together to make representations to the Church about issues of mutual interest. I'm happy to answer any questions before we take the report. However, I have been asked if I'd make space in my report for us to ask Lisa White to speak to us briefly on the, better sit down, Lisa, you might not agree. I'm sure he will. On an initiative with young people in the Guild. If the Guild asks you something, the answer is yes. What is the question? So, moderator, if you have permission, we'll ask Lisa to give us a
Delighted, Lisa. On you come.
Thank you, moderator, and thank you, Alec. I'm Lisa White. I'm an elder here at Wellesley Parish Church. And when Alec said that I've got a space in his report, but it's right at the end, the slot that no one likes. But actually, I think hopefully it's quite good for me because it will stick in your mind as a positive thing that you want to tell people about and your congregations about. So I'm going to tell you about LIFT, which is Love in Fellowship in Trust. And if you were listening at the General Assembly to the Guild report, you will have heard about us. We started off as the Young Adults Guild in 2022 with a name change to LIFT last year. We've met since 2022 online, on Zoom, nationally. We've had plenty of speakers from across the range, from Guild, Christian Aid, Bible's Forbearance, all these sorts of things. And this year we decided that we want to launch locally. And the two pilot areas for this are across in the west and here in Fife. So we are holding one of the first LIFT events in Fife. It's going to be on the 22nd of November. So please tell your young adults all about that. And I have been asked what counts as a young adult, because I have been called the young person here today. So anyone who is under 40, over 18, under 40. So I have recruited a few people in the room already, but do share this with your congregation because I know that all of you will know someone in that age category. I have got posters and invites. I'll be at the door. Please take them away and share it with everyone as a place for us to worship together, to belong together, to do mission together, and calling on what the moderator said to earlier, I need your help to be able to tell people about it.
I'm very much afraid that by mentioning that aid range, you very nearly rendered the second piece of business technically incompetent this afternoon, but thank you very much indeed, Lisa, for those words on LIFT. And you'll be stationed at the door to hand out that stuff when people leave. Thank you. That's all I have to say, moderator, except to present the deliverances as in the print.
Do you accept the deliverances? Lisa, brilliant ending in every way, and I hope that you get loads of support for that. I just wish I was in the age range, but sadly, no. We're going to sing a hymn together. Sorry? Oh, I've got to do my one more thing.
Yeah.
Remind me what it is.
The final deliverance, number 5, I think we've just accepted these as a lump, but the final deliverance, number 5, we should not let pass in that way. Helen Ironside is in the presbytery this afternoon. Would you like to stand up, Helen? I don't care if you would or not. Would you please stand up? Helen has for many months now, I can't remember how many months, been the graphic hand behind the weekly newsletter, which I think all of you will agree is an absolutely splendid publication that comes out every week. And compared, by the way, to what other presbyteries are doing, I'm not going to gloat about this, but I'm going to gloat about it, is quite substantially better. And Helen is unfortunately going to have to step back from that for a short time at least. And I think it's only right that Presbytery record its thanks to Helen for the work that she's done.
Helen, we love it. It's really effective. Even my kids and other folks. Yeah, I know we all get help from Gail in so many different ways. The date of our next meeting will be the introduction of Reverend Eileen Miller as interim minister to the charge of Langtoon Central Parish Church, Kirkcaldy, at a venue to be intimated on. I was just going to say we were told St. Bryce. That was a good echo, everybody. That was great. And thereafter, on October the 30th, for the induction of Reverend Michael Okpara to the charge of Fife Eden Tay Parish Church at Ochtermachty, 6:45. So those are two. Then the 15th of November, not at St. Columba's Parish Church, but in St. Isle within Anstruther for Holy Communion. We're going to sing together to end our time. Then I'm going to pray. And then I'm going to invite the youngest potential minister within our midst to pronounce a blessing before he goes off to join another presbytery. He's bending my ear about signing those sheets, so please get him off my back and make sure you sign before you go. I can't remember what the hymn is. It's there. Thank you. like a mighty river flowing. Thanks, Isla. Mighty river flowing, like a flower in beauty growing, far beyond all human knowing, is the perfect peace of God. Like the hills serene and even, like the coursing clouds of heaven, like the So we remain standing and Ali comes beside me. A prayer that I've been praying a lot recently, most of you will know the beginning of, but it seems so relevant just now in these times of great transition. It's by somebody called Reinhold Niebuhr. Different meaning for us Fifers. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace, taking, as Jesus did, this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it be, trusting that you will make all things right if I surrender to your will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. Amen.
Would you simply join me as we together pronounce the grace and God's blessing to one another? May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us all evermore.